right, so I'm going to start it off.
Well, before you do, Jeff Ford, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Bill Rodish, and I am fine. I've had a busy day today getting a brand new to me lawnmower from a friend of mine, which is really cool. And just kind of dealing with some stuff for parts for the show.
Cool. Yeah.
Got a transmission, got an AC system that I'm sending off to Classic Auto Air to redo for an episode on the F100 series of stuff. So not on mine because we got the vintage air in that one, but Classic Auto Air is doing one for a stock rebuild in a 72 Ford F100. So there you go.
So why don't we tell the folks what we imagine this thing to be?
An absolute cluster.
Well, I hope not. I hope this turns out to be fun. You know, I've been wanting to do this for so many years to get to interview some of the great people that I know and the things that they've done and accomplished, and so many of them have shared this stuff with some of these things with me. So many of them have allowed me to come and work with them, which has helped me to grow myself. So I've been wanting to interview these folks for a long time. So this is really exciting for me, and I can't wait to do this.
Well, I mean, basically that's what we decided is we wanted to do conversations because it's a way to discover what other people are into and what they've done with themselves. And we're going to be doing this with YouTube channels, with, you know, guys that are in the music industry, guys that are in the firearms industry, car guys. We're not going to be barreling this thing down into one small group. It's going to be conversations with people we find interesting. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person that's famous or someone that anybody even knows. Yes. So that's kind of the basis for what we decided to do with it.
And I'm going to guess that a lot of the folks that are coming on, probably nobody will know. But
well, I mean, some of the guys that I know in the auto industry, people inside that group will know them. It's kind of like being a guitar builder. You know, right. If you have a ton of people on that are guitar guys, they're going to know who he is. The car guys won't. But one of the funny things I've always found about car guys like music, and most car guys I know like firearms. So the three things that we were the most interested in is where most of this is going to end up.
Yeah. So we're going to become like a giant vacuum and suck all of those into the show.
Suck all those people into the show and spit them back out of the general populace.
And oh, by the way, we should tell them what the name of the show is.
Yeah, the name of the show is Conversations with Bill and Jeff. Oh, I thought you were just leaning over. I don't have it on the back of mine. I have a Manic Mechanic shirt and an Auto Restaurant shirt. Yeah. And my picture that I think is kind of cool. So you get what you get with me. I don't have
conversations with. Yeah.
We have a logo, and here, I'm going to put the logo up right now. That's the logo we're going to be using for this. So I want to start off with asking you, I mean, I know your background, but a lot of these folks may not know your background. I know you have a channel. The channel, I'm going to put a link to in the description below, and I'm also putting it below me right here. Bill has a channel where he does firearms, he does Jeeps, he's got a Pontiac, 76 Pontiac he's working on. He's got all kind of stuff that he's doing, and I'd like for you to go check out Bill's channel and subscribe if you would, because Bill's stuff is just really neat. He's got a lot of cool things over there for you to look at. His firearm restoration stuff is epic, and I'm going to get to that right now. So, Bill, what do you know about firearms?
How does being born into a firearms family rate?
That's pretty high on the list.
That's pretty high on the list, yeah. So my dad started his own gun shop 58 years ago, and it's been the family business ever since. My dad's going to be 94 years old, and he still shows up every day. Every day he comes down and he waits on customers, fixes guns, teaches me a thing or two. But after all these years, you know, this stuff is sort of ingrained, and we begin to know it. My expertise is as a woodworker or as a stock maker. I'm a gunsmith as well, but most of my gunsmithing revolves around doing restoration work and that kind of stuff. That's where my passion lies, taking these old pieces of history and bringing them back to life again where I can. At the same time, respecting that history by not doing restorations that really ruin the story that these guns, these firearms have to tell. So my training is as a woodworker. I'm not sure if I can use the name of the company I work for or not, but what the hell.
I won't cut it out. So you're stuck with it.
Okay. So I worked for Ruger Firearms for 44 years. I started there back in 1975. I had just gotten out of college. I went to engineering school, or went to school for aeronautical engineering. Go figure. Come out of school, and I was broke like everybody is when they come out of school. And to add that insult to more injury, the 66 Mustang that I was driving, the 2 spring shackles had come up through the trunk. So the car had literally...
I'm only laughing because I've already heard this story, but
yes.
It doesn't get any worse with time. Every time I think about you driving that thing around. So what happened with the springs?
So the shackles just rotted up through the trunk, okay? Because the gas tank was the floor of the trunk, but on the side of the gas tank was where it bolted into the chassis itself. And this is New Hampshire. This is New England. We use salt in the winter times, and that salt just ate it away, and the springs just came up through the trunk, and the car settled down on the pumpkin. And I drove it that way for weeks. I'd put it into gear, let the clutch out, and the whole back end of the car would lift up, put the clutch in, and it would settle back down, hit it into second, car would come up, come back down again.
I'd give $1 to see video of that.
I drove that car that way for weeks, and then finally one day I realized that was probably not the safest thing to do. But in your early 20s, in your early 20s, who cares, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just kind of drifting around trying to figure out what I was going to do. I really wanted to go back to school, but I had to pay off some debt before I did that. So my dad's being dad, says to me, Bill, because my dad was now working for Ruger as well. He left a machinist job for one of the larger machine shops in the Northeast. And he was actually called and asked to come work for the company because of his background as a machinist and as a gunsmith. And he's up there working for a year, and he says to me, why don't you come and work for Ruger? I says, Dad, I don't want to work for a factory. And he goes, well, he says, just 1 year. He says, come on up, you work that 1 year, he says, and you can pay off your school debt and you can buy yourself a new car. And I like to tell my dad 44 years later, Dad, that was the longest damn year I've ever spent in my life. So,
well, at least it shows you got stick-to-itiveness, though.
Yeah, and I ended up running the wood shop. My dad ran the wood shop for a number of years.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I ended up replacing him, and I ran the wood shop until the new management came in, and they asked me to go back into engineering, and I went, yes. So
finally, that degree, oh wait, it's not paying off. Yeah.
So anyway, the last 12 years that I worked there, I was in the design and development department, which was a hoot. It was a lot of fun. So I got to see a lot of those products that got designed and created in the last 12 years I was there come to fruition.
You did some stuff like lean coordination right toward the end of your career with them too, where you're going in and making the factories more efficient.
Correct. And that was part of that was my position in design and development. I would go in and I would look at things and try and look at them from the perspective of how can we make this as efficient as we can, make product as quickly as we can with the quality we expected, and then, oh, by the way, not hurt our operators while we're doing it. So that was my role in that towards the end, and that was a lot of fun. Doing that role, and at the same time, I'm going back to school taking woodworking classes in anywhere I could, any kind of class I could take, learning how to do what I do.
Sure.
Got some good friends who are restoration specialists. I trained under them, learning how to think about restoration, learning how to approach a restoration with the idea that you're actually rescuing or saving the story as much as you are bringing this thing back to life. So I got to spend a lot of time with folks that do that. I'd like to bring some of those folks onto this program sometime in the future.
Oh yeah, I think we'll definitely do that, because I think there's more of a movement toward preservation, restoration, even in the old car hobby,
Yes,
than there has been in the past. You know, in the last several years, you know, the patina movement has really come on strong.
yeah,
Sometimes I think it's probably come on a little too strong, because there's
yeah,
some cars out that I see, I'm like, you know what? This isn't patina. This is just a rusty piece of crap.
yeah. No,
Yes, it's a 57 Chevy, but Jiminy Christmas, it looks dangerous.
yes, no,
You get a tetanus shot just to get in the car.
I completely agree with that. You know, so there are limits to everything. You know, how do you approach a restoration and think about it in a way that, like I said, that preserves the story where you can. I mean, we do resto mods too. You know, we literally take an old piece of an old firearm that literally is that rusty piece of crap. The stock's busted, the metal's all rusted and pitted. You're not going to bring. It's only original ones, so you're never going to preserve what's not there.
Right.
So at some point you say, you know what, this would make a really nice custom, and then you go and do that, and that's acceptable as well. You know. But
so I was going to ask you this, because you got into video production in kind of a roundabout way, because you actually started off doing videos for your family to hold on to family history.
correct. My family.
And then I sucked you over to the dark side.
Yes, you did. Ultimately, you're the blame for all the cameras, all the lights, all the stuff that.
For the record, folks, his wife's not real happy with me at some points.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna buy what? You need how many cameras?
Why do you need that many cameras?
And what's wrong with that camera that you bought 10 years ago? Doesn't it still work?
Yes.
Yes.
Just not the right way.
Yes. Yeah, my family has always been great storytellers. I grew up listening to stories. Yeah, I think it's how my family got through some of the difficult times. They were all, you know, they were children of the Depression, and they had their own family struggles growing up, and they would tell stories, and when they told the stories, they would laugh, you know. So they found joy in the difficulty that they had growing up, and then they would share it, and we would all laugh as a family, you know. So I grew up with stories, and I love stories. And oh, by the way, I love movies and film too. So
Oh yeah.
it just seemed like a natural progression. And when I started collecting all my family's history and all of their stories, I wanted to find a way to tell it. So I bought a camera and a piece of software. $50, by the way, for the software.
You got the software at Staples, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You're out spending all these thousands of dollars
Yeah.
on software, and I could have just gone to Staples and talked to the young dude you talked to.
Yeah, $50, man. It's the best software we got.
Come
Yeah.
out.
And actually, it served me well for years. I like the brand so much that I've upgraded 2 more times, you know, and every time I upgrade, the company itself gets better and better. So I
That's
like
good.
it. Yeah. So anyway, so I started out making family videos, and I posted them privately over on Vimeo. And at the same time, I got this little green Jeep that I bought, and I'm thinking, you know what? Wouldn't it be fun to be like Jeff
While I'm here.
while I'm here? So I started filming some of the work I did on the Jeep.
See, that's yeah. You're and actually then I'm the one that actually got you to where you started doing the gun videos, because I kept preaching that
Yeah.
thing.
I kept saying, no, Jeff, I do this every day. No, Jeff, I want to do something else. And Jeff kept saying, no, you really need to do this. Yeah,
It'll be fun.
it'll be fun. And it
Just
turns
do it
out,
for a year. It'll be
just
okay.
for a year. And now here we are 3 years later. Anyway, but no, and you were right. The gun videos probably do slightly better than the Jeep videos, which, oh, by the way, do pretty well too.
Yeah, but I told you then. I said Jeeps and guns, they're like hand in hand. They're like peas and carrots, like Forrest Gump said.
Yeah.
You know.
So now I make video, and
now you make video because you're retired from Ruger now.
Yeah, I retired a year ago, a little over a year ago. Not to say that I have all kinds of time, because now I'm helping my dad down the retail shop, you know, and it gives him purpose, you know, and I'm having fun with him. He's going to be 94, as I said. How much longer am I going to have with him?
He's a Marine too. I mean, he was in World War II in the Marines, right?
He was in the Pacific in 45. Then he went to China, so he's one of the China Marines. And if you're a Marine, cool, and you know China, and you know Marine history, then you would know what a China Marine is.
I didn't know that about your dad. I thought he'd been in the Marines and he'd done the campaign in 45 through to the end of the war, but I didn't realize he went to China as well.
Yeah, he did, and then they shipped him to China. And I said, "What did you do in China?" He said, "Get shot at."
I was gonna say, I said cool, and I thought, well, no. Yeah, not if you're a Marine. China's not cool.
What did you do in China?
You got shot at.
I got shot at, yeah. So anyway, but that's a really great memory for my dad. He actually likes his China service. And I guess you have to be a China Marine to really understand that.
Well, it puts him in an even smaller cadre of men, yeah. You know, and I mean, it's a dying breed. That those guys aren't going to be here much longer. I mean, as sad as it is to say, yeah, but that's really the greatest generation. I mean, these guys, you know, to have your dad around, still be able to ask him questions is just awesome.
And he's still teaching me. You know, I'm starting to teach him too, which is kind of funny in its own right. You know.
Yeah, I think you told me a story one time recently about how you said, "Dad, this is how we do this," and he looked at you, and goes, "Oh yeah, now I remember."
yeah. So Jeffrey,
sir,
tell me about you. Tell me about your history. I mean, you grew up in Aiken, am I correct?
I was born in Aiken, lived here until I was in about the 3rd or 4th grade, maybe 5th grade, and then we started moving around. My dad was an electrical engineer. And I've always been an art kind of guy. I'm one of those people that if I have checks in the checkbook, I must have money. So I'm not a you know, a linear thinker in that way, except if I'm working on cars. And then I'm very much more engineering minded. I try to engineer things to make them where they're going to work. And a lot of times I fail, sometimes I don't. But it's something that's kind of born into me by my dad and my uncle. Uncle Bill, he's in his 80s now, and he's still working on old cars. He's still working on he's got an 82 Ford F100 he's doing right now. He's 80, yeah. He'll be 83 July 3rd.
Yeah, and we know that having purpose in life is everything, you know.
Yep. So, I ran him out today to make him go pick up that mower. Just to give him something to do today. Get him out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I mean, I started doing that. I went to art school, graduated with honors from the Art Institute of Houston with a graphic design background, did that for a few years, got the dream job of a lifetime for a car guy. I became the editor for Mustang Monthly magazine, and then Mustang and Ford magazine. And then I went to work for a suspension company out of Australia for a while as their marketing guy. And when all that kind of stuff went pear-shaped on me, I decided that I would do video production. How hard can it be?
Yeah, well, that's what we need to talk about, brother. Whatever made you think that you could be a successful YouTuber back when YouTube was not even known?
I have no idea. I just knew that, you know, if I could do photography for the magazines and do a story in 12 pictures, how much more could I do at 24 frames a second? That was honestly the genesis of everything right there. So we.
But you told me once that you really you really love video.
Oh yeah, man. I've always wanted to work in video production, even as in the advertising business. I had really wanted to get into the video side of things because I am an MTV baby. I didn't grow up as a small child, but as a teenager, I remember watching the very first video on MTV called Music Killed the Radio Star, or Video Killed the Radio Star. So I watched that when it came on MTV. And by the way, if you're young enough, MTV used to have music videos. That's why it's called MTV, for music television, which doesn't apply at all anymore. But I digress. So I grew up with that thinking, I really want to do that. And honestly, every advertising job I ever got, I never got to work on video. It was always a print agency in Houston because video wasn't a big thing in that market.
Right.
So I never got to do it. And then as I moved away from that, again, when I went to Mustang Monthly, it's a print magazine, no video production involved. Because back then, even back in the mid-90s, video production was still a real pain in the butt. And as things grew on in time, we started this in 2010. By 2010, cameras were cheaper. Video production gear is not as cheap as the stuff that you got at Staples, but it was still fairly cheap to get into Adobe Premiere. And so I bought a copy of Adobe Premiere. We bought a crappy, and I mean crappy camera. Tried using that for one episode, and it was so hideous. I'm like, no, I'm going to break down and spend the money for a camera. So we had one camera to start off, which was an HF200 Canon, and we took off from there. And we've now grown on to where we've got XA11s. We got 3 of those. I work with kids now. We started off working with kids initially. Most of the time what we're doing is we're trying to train kids between the ages of probably 12 and 20. That's typically where we lose them, to do video production. And a lot of times I'm finding that unless they move away, I can't get rid of them. They want to stick around. Cam started off as a teenager, like a 16-year-old or 17-year-old. I think he's 16 years old.
Yeah.
Like a baby-faced kid, and he's now 24, and he's still hoofing it. He's our co-host on the show now on Autorestomod.
And he's really good at it.
And I mean, he literally grew into that from starting off being, I don't want to be in front of the camera. He told me that for the first year he was doing it. And I managed to wheedle him in to get him in front of the camera because I liked his nature and his way.
Yeah.
So we do train kids to operate cameras. We try to put them in front of the camera. My stepson Logan is now going to start helping me co-host Manic Mechanic because I want him to get that experience in front of the camera as well. So,
did you ever do any acting?
Never did. It's funny. I never got into acting as a kid. I never got involved with theater or any of that kind of stuff. My mom always told me I should be a preacher.
Okay. So
Knowing me, that's probably not a good idea.
Just because you had so much to say?
No, actually, it was because I think she saw my heart. My grandmother was like that too. She knew I like to teach. I like to be involved with teaching people, but as much as teaching, I had a nice heart for people, and I enjoy dealing with people. It's one of the reasons why I like doing Autorestomod and Manic Mechanic, because it gives me the opportunity to help folks do something on their car. And I mean, that's one of the mantras that I keep getting from guys that write in and say, if you hadn't have done this show, I wouldn't be able to, my 67 Mustang wouldn't be finished now.
Yeah.
So I've never done acting. Like I said, Granny wanted me to be a preacher. That didn't happen by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. It's kind of nice when I mean, the internet is not always the friendliest place, but it's kind of nice when somebody will say something nice to you and say, you know, you helped me do this, or you've given me this pleasure, or you've given me the opportunity to learn or become something. And I was telling you a few days ago about the letter I got from the collector out in California.
That's on your most recent video. That video really impacted me. It was a great little how-to piece, but it was also good storytelling. Guys, I recommend, I'm going to put a link below me here, and there's going to be a link in the description below to go look at that video that he did. It's about 15 minutes long. It's on the restoration of a
Winchester Model 1892.
I was going to say 98, so it's a good thing I didn't lie. But it's a Winchester 92 that he does the stock restoration on, that when the gun came to the owner, it got broken in shipping at the stock. And it was a horrible break, but he didn't want to restock the rifle. He wanted to keep that original patina and feel that the rifle had because of its age and all. Right. So it's a really nice video. Go check that out. Like I said, link in the description below, and as well as below, I guess below us, somewhere down here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so, and he sent me this really nice letter, and it sort of gives meaning. It gives meaning to the purpose, and it warms you and says, okay, I want to do this some more.
Yeah, I mean, we get more good comments than negative comments. I mean, you're going to get snarky people, and it's like I tell folks, if you're going to be snarky, I'm really good at it. I'll be snarky right back. Yeah. I've played with the best of them, so if you're going to be mean to me, I can be mean right back to you if you're going to be that way. But on the whole, I would say that because we've been doing this for 10 years now, it'll be 10 years July 3rd of this year, because of all the positive comments that we've gotten, I've kept going. I mean, we're certainly not the largest automotive channel on YouTube. There's a lot of guys out there that are doing way better than we're doing.
But you have such a tremendous library, Jeff.
Yeah, it is a big library. I mean, we got 463 auto Restomod videos, 80 plus videos for Manic Mechanic as of this episode of this show.
Well, it's how I discovered you. It's how you and I became friends. I ended up inheriting my brother's Camaro, and the floor had a big hole in the driver's side. And I went online and I said, hey, internet, how do you fix a Camaro floor? And you came up, serious, and I watched the video, and I was so impressed with not just the quality of the video, but the quality of the information. And I ended up binge watching all of your damn shows.
Poor man.
Yeah. And it was fun to watch the progression from that first video to when I finally caught up. But the thing about it is, and you said that you have a warm heart. I think that was the term you used, or big heart.
Well, yeah, my mom always told me I had a sympathetic nature toward people,
And I remember after watching a couple of your videos, I just penned a simple email to you just to say how much I enjoyed your stuff, and thinking that was going to just go into some trash heap somewhere. And damn you if you didn't write me back.
And thus began your descent into hell.
Yeah, and
hey, Bill, you should do this too.
Yeah, and we ended up finding out we had more in common. Because I was working down in North Carolina at the plant for the company, and that was
a cool trip, man. Yeah. Getting to tour that facility, that was awesome.
Yeah, brought you up there. It was 4.5 hours from your house, so it's like.
Thank you.
Well, no, I'm saying, and I would end up coming down to your house. It's just like, hey, and friendship was born, I guess, Yep. And now look at us. Yeah. I'm on the dark side, and we're doing a video together. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk it? Yeah. So anyway, so where do we go from here, my friend?
Well, we're going to be getting some new guests in. It's not going to just be looking at your mug and my mug. We've got a few people I'm talking to right now. One of the specifics I've talked to recently, and I'm going to be on the phone with him for our next episode, is Matt and Ellie, and I cannot pronounce his last name. It's something that's remarkably Italian, so I don't want to butcher it here. But Ellie's Garage is a channel that's on here on YouTube. She's a 15-year-old girl working on a 1965 Falcon, and super nice. They're both really good people. They're just a lot of fun to talk to, and I kind of wanted to get on that because apparently, from what I can gather so far, and I may be completely wrong about this, but from what I can gather so far, is the car was her idea, not his idea.
Oh, that's interesting.
And Matt is actually a professional video producer. That's what he does for a living. He makes video and he shoots video. So his quality level is really good on the show. But it was really more about something that she wanted to do. She said, Dad, can we do this? And so Matt jumped in with both feet and helped Ellie get started on it. So we're going to try to get her and him on for our next conversations with, and hopefully by then I will learn how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
Because we'll want to be able to say that in the intro where we have the really cool music we don't have yet and the voiceover that, you know.
And I've been in conversation with several people that they're on board for this. So I think we can sort of really span a lot of territory.
Oh yeah, you've got some guys. You got some people that are into guitar building, I believe.
Yep, guitar building, making accessories for firearms. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we can share some really fun stories with the audience here.
Yeah, there's even some other ones that we're going to be doing because one of the things we wanted to do is to help channels like there's two guys, Six Fan and Old Car Guy. They actually were kind of the impetus for us deciding to do this.
Right.
And so I wanted to bring them on the show and have a meeting with them as well. So we'll have two different people because it's kind of cool because I think Old Car Guy is up in this part of Canada, right above where you're at in New Hampshire. He's up in that area of Canada, and Six Fan is, I believe, in the Midwest. So these two guys have a show like this, and they just have both of them get on their Zoom meeting stuff, and they come in and they have guys. They had me on, I guess, what was it, Bill, about a month and a half ago?
About a month and a half, and that was a good show.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and that's what we decided. You know, we know so many people that are, I won't call them industry insiders because that just sounds cheap, but I know a lot of people within the automotive industry that I can twist their arm because I know where the bodies are buried, and I can get them on the show. So some of them look like they're not really having a lot of fun. It's probably because I forced them to do this.
They'll have fun. Yeah, we'll make sure they have.
Well, there's a couple of guys I know that I'm a little worried about them having a little too much fun on here. Having to hit the stop button every once in a while.
Mike? Your buddy Mike?
Yeah, Mike Eaton with Eaton Detroit Spring.
Mike will be a lot of fun.
Mike's a riot. He's definitely a different kettle of fish. Another guy that I don't know if I can get him on or not, but one of my other friends works in the brakes industry for cars, and his nickname from me is Hoops because we were at a bar one night and there was a basket over the table of another table, and we were shooting hoops into the basket with our paper towels, and the waitress made us clean up our mess because we'd done like 35 or 40 paper towels. I want to try to get Ray on, see if he'll come on, but Ray's he's one of those kind of people who's pretty private, so he may not want to do it, but I'll work on him.
We'll have fun.
We'll have some fun. Well, folks, that's our little mini episode tonight.
It is.
We'll be back with more of these, regardless of whether you want to watch them or not. We're going to be putting them up there and seeing how we can make this thing sing and dance. So as we leave tonight, as always, I'm Jeff Ford.
I'm Bill Rodishin.
And this has been Conversations with Bill and Jeff.
Bill and Jeff. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Have a great night, guys.